Yo, what up, what up, what up, man? Listen, I wasn't even gonna do this today, but I'm just like, you know what? Fuck it. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, I'm gonna tell you what, I'm gonna invite the motherfuckers that are in my server right now. We're all in here conversating, right? Because I'll be honest with you, there's no point in not doing it. I mean, we got like 4 or 5 people in here. We're all just arguing in text. We might as well just do this shit, what I'm saying, live. Like it is what it is. We might as well just have this conversation. You know what I mean? Like, yo, come on, y'all. Let's go. Let's get this in. Like, yo, come on, y'all. Let's go. Let's get this done. You know what I mean? Because it is what it is. Like, I'll be real with you. I'm in here having a conversation with Harold Sheckerbon, you know what I'm saying? And Dip and Ad Hoc. And you know what I mean? Yo, what up, Ryan? Right. And motherfucking trying to remember his name. And Navison, my nigga Neffel. Right. We're all in here having a conversation about shit. And it's just like, yo, look. There's no point in not doing this at this point. You know what I mean? Legitimately. Like, you might as well just go live and have this fucking conversation. You know what I mean? Because, like, you know what? I told work I wouldn't be in till 7. I might just take the fucking night off and say, fuck it. You know what I mean? There's no point in not doing that. Like, I got fucking money. I'm good. I'm fucking cool right now. Everything's fucking smooth. Right. But, like, if we're going to have this conversation, you know what I mean? Like, yo, let's get this the fuck in. You know what I mean? Let's do this. Let's handle this business. You know what I mean? We could sit here and talk about this. Everybody can come and hop on stream. You know what I mean? We can sit here and just do a goddamn live stream and get it the fuck in. Like, hell with it. There's no point in not doing it. So anyway, right. What was the conversation about? The conversation was about 2 things. One, anarchism, right? And the time that it existed in Europe after the fall of the Roman Empire, right? And the second part of the conversation was, you know what I'm saying? Like about that dude who stood there and ended up, getting he got popped with an 8-month term over it's January 16th, right? Like the dude stood here and ended up, catching 8 months because he went into the Senate chamber and took some selfies. And, they said that like he, held up the progress of, the Senate, whatever nonsense, like he held up the saying, I forget the name of the fucking, I don't know, whatever. I don't fucking care. But here's the truth, right? Here's the real honest to God's truth in the end of the day, right? Yo, look, never challenge the king unless you got a plan to win. Like real shit. Like if you're not willing to go the whole way with it, you know what I mean? Like, yo, you shouldn't be out there fucking challenging the king. Like that's some real mentality shit in the end of the day. Right? Like, just is what the fuck it is. You know what I mean? Like I don't feel bad for motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, if you are not willing to sit here and actually get this done the way it needs to be done, you know what I mean? Fuck it. You know what I mean? Like, yo, I don't feel bad for you. If you're not planning, you know what I'm saying, like your moves properly, like if you didn't plan like 3 moves ahead and these motherfuckers are out here trying to get you, I don't feel bad for you. Like real shit. Like, why are you challenging the system when you're not planning on taking over? You know what I mean? Like that's some real shit. If you don't have a plan, if you don't stand here and have, you know what I'm saying, a mental to be able to sit here and, really have some shit to replace the system with, why are you doing this? You know what I mean? Like real shit. Like why are you standing here thinking that, you know what I mean, like, yo, you should sit here and have the ability to, you know what I mean, like take over? Why do you think that, like, yo, when a fly bothers you, right? You know what I mean? Like real shit. When a fly bothers you, you fucking smash it. When an ant's in your house, you smash it. That's what they're going to do to you in the end of the day. You're a fucking annoyance to them. Like, yo, the Democrats and the liberals in this motherfucking country, right? They legitimately, right? They are in power. We're not. That's just the mentality of it. And they're going to continue to be in power. Like, yo, they don't understand that, like, yo, all the delusions of shit. Yo, Harold, what up, man? You know what I'm saying? All the delusions.
What's up?
Yo, what up, man? How the fuck you doing, my brother?
Am I really from Pennsylvania? I can't tell what that license plate says.
Yo, we from Pennsylvania.
Okay, fair enough. I can agree to this.
you know where we're from. Like, yo, do you look around you? You know what I'm saying? When you're driving down the road and see mountains and shit. Yeah.
Technically, I'd have to travel further west for that. But yeah, I get what you're coming.
I mean, further west. Like, how far east are you?
How far? I'm in the Piedmont region, dead center of the state.
Oh no, you're in Pennsylvania. You're in Pennsylvania.
Okay, fair enough.
Like, I'm in Harrisburg, right? I'm in Harrisburg, and there's mountains everywhere. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. You're that far west that you're actually in the mountain range, right?
Yeah.
Neat.
Right. Well, anyway, Dip, what up, man? Oh, Dip. Apparently his mic ain't working yet. Anyway, yeah, man. Like, yo, so, like, real shit, like, ad hoc. Am I wrong?
Are you wrong on what?
Am I wrong that, like, legitimate, like, yo, the lefts and the liberals are in fucking power, and they always have been, and we're basically just an annoyance to them?
To me personally, you got to go back actually to the days of the Red Scare to really kind of look at it as far as that's concerned. Because the one thing.
What do you mean?
All right, yeah. So, have you heard of what's his Yuri Vikovich? I don't know what it is. I know his name is Yuri. He's a KGB defector who and yeah, he explained how. Yeah, he explained how we have been subverted.
I don't think that's real though.
You don't think that's real?
Yeah, but I don't think that's real.
Okay.
Yuri Bezmenov.
Yeah.
Bezmenov. Well, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, right? I don't think that's real.
Even if you don't believe that it's, it's the communists subverting everything. Yeah. That's where I understand where people start to get a little skeptic. Oh, the communists are behind everything. The Red Scare was real. Even if you don't believe that that's the case, the tactics he explains in how the communists were planning to destabilize the United States, and just for that one, I think we're seeing those tactics being implemented. They implemented the playbook. The question of who is actually benefiting from the playbook, I think that's kind of where you're coming from. And I would say, have they won? Have they always been in power? Going by the playbook, I would have to say yes. It definitely feels that way.
I'll be real, man. Like,
we gotta start looking more into what Mulbach calls the cathedral.
They infiltrated the university, and that's where it came from. They have had power in the university since the 60s and 70s. It goes back to that age-old adage: those who can't do, teach. What have these people actually done in their lives? You can look at the career academics as failures in what it is they wanted to do. They couldn't do. They couldn't become, the next great Albert Einstein, Thomas Edison, all the people that are more famous for doing stuff. They couldn't become that.
All right. Well, like here's something though I think like we're missing, right? And this is why like I listen to a lot of shit, and I read a lot of books. I listen to a lot of books anyway, right? And I think that this is the end result of the managerial revolution, right? This is the end result of FDR putting into place the bureaucracy that he did, right? That literally took over our communities and our counties and our states and our local governments, right? And took the power away from them and placed it into the federal government, right?
Oh, no, it goes further back than that. We're actually looking to the Lincoln administration. Everyone likes to talk about how Lincoln was a good president. He was, but that actually gets back into the whole thing. Some people don't believe this, and that the Civil War was actually a battle of states' rights versus federal oversight. The Union won. The federal oversight started overreaching, occupied South Territory, all that fun stuff. But yeah, I also agree, that's kind of where the FDR policies come in. This is the interesting thing.
Go
when
ahead.
you have a democratic system like ours,
Right.
and you want to make change, if you don't have if you don't have things in place to safeguard the policies that you make in the hopes of making things better, in 4 years, what's to stop rapid change from just taking over and revitalizing? Like every time we have an election, which is literally every year, and the policies change to reflect the current administration, we would literally have to relearn how to live in our society all over again. And that's where, federal employees, actual long-term day-to-day employees come in. They help to ensure that that kind of rapid change isn't necessary, that we can kind of breathe for a little bit after something has been changed. And this kind of goes into a whole thing on IT, but I'm kind of getting long-winded.
Well, you're fine.
On
You're
that.
fine. Right. I get your mentality. Right. I do. I get your mentality. But on the same point, right, the government is supposed to be able to pivot. Right. And
Yes,
the problems.
I fully agree to that. I fully agree that
Right.
there should be an ability to pivot.
Like for instance, right now, like, all right, at current, we are still dealing with the fall of the Berlin Wall. At current today. Right. At this very moment, we are still dealing with the fucking bullshit from that. And we have yet to pivot our policies from the fucking 1980s.
Agreed. And
it was only recently under Trump that we're starting to have the ball rolling, but it's gonna take at least 10 to 20 years before we actually have something to suitably replace our systems.
Right. I mean, this is the problem, is that we're not pivoting. Like, when we learn, you know what I'm saying, that, like something doesn't work, it takes forever to fucking change anything because of the fact that we have these entrenched government fucking bureaucrats that will fight.
Politician. It's the
not just that. It's not just goddamn bureaucrats.
It's goddamn bureaucrats. The
Pentagon people.
Pentagon people. The world banking interests, even basically any companies that's been financed by DARPA.
Right. And I was talking about how that was implemented to prevent that kind of rapid change. In the same vein, I also see where the both of you are coming from, in that when something gets far too entrenched and the world turns, the ability to turn with it and adapt is necessary. And I see where y'all are coming from. When you have that entrenched mindset, that makes it difficult. And yes, we are long overdue for a change. We're still operating with politicians, policies, and other stuff that have frankly not been necessary. We're still operating like it's 1970. It's not 1970 anymore. To borrow the whole thing from the leftists that I hate, it's current year. They have
the issue is a lot of our politicians and bureaucrats have been around since the 1970s.
The 1960s and
50s. 1960s and 70s, right?
Like, and here's the other half of that, right? The problem is that those entrenched bureaucrats go on the fucking news and continue to propagate bullshit that isn't, like fucking even real, right? Like, the whole world thinks that free trade's a good idea, right? When in reality, the whole reason that we had free trade in general was a goddamn military principle to defeat the fucking Soviets.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with fucking free trade, right?
It was basically we gave the world a bribe in order for the rest of the world to fight the Soviets while we provide the manufacturing, the finance, the economics to whatever the rest of the world needs. They basically had access. We basically gave them right to fight the Russians for us. In turn, they get access to our markets.
Yep. And we'll float our fucking Navy, to protect trade all over the fucking world.
Yeah.
I can understand, and I agree to this. And I think this is where Donald Trump gets a lot of flack. He looked at those deals and he said, all right, the Cold War's over. The Soviets done to this. These deals are outdated. Let's get some new deals in here. And everybody freaked the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like, he even sat down with longtime allies. Like, the UK has been the US's longest time ally since even its inception. The US has a long history of making friends with people that we fight. And Trump was even willing to sit down, look at the UK and say, okay, even these trade agreements that have been in place since, I don't know, the 17 and 1800s no longer fit and valid. Let's sit down and discuss a 2000s policy trade.
Well, technically, our oldest ally is Jordan, right? I mean, technically, you know what I mean? Like, you want to.
Well, we're talking about the same Jordan Ritter Bank way over yonder in the Middle East. The name the X thing. Is that what we're talking about, right?
Well, and like Jordan and Jen, like literally, like the Kingdom of Jordan was one of our first fucking, blood royal truth. Yo, here, man, have a fucking wrench. And no, you don't need a wrench to fucking chat, right? But like, legitimately, you know, what I mean, I give everybody fucking, you know, what I mean, a wrench in my chat so nobody can like, you know, like silence you out, and you never end up having your comments get deleted, at least in the live streams. Like, fucking, it doesn't help with the whatchamacallit. But yeah, like fucking so. Now, Jordan was actually one of our first fucking allies as a whole, like because we were fighting piracy and fucking like back in George Washington's time. You know, I mean, even before Great Britain was one of our fucking allies.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, you know, just some cool shit, you know what I mean? Like for history buffs, you know what I'm saying? Want to know shit, you know what I mean? But like, yeah, actually Great Britain doesn't even have a trade deal with us right now.
I think Britain decided to get into a trade deal with the EU even after Brexit.
Well, no, like fucking.
Yeah, that's where the whole fight came from.
Yeah,
they wanted.
I think Britain has a trade deal with Canada, Australia, and New Zealand.
Yeah, that's where the whole Brexit issue necessarily came from. You know, the UK. Here's the thing about how the EU works. To the best of my knowledge, as an American, some European boy is going to come here. Hell, I could probably go to the 501st, talk to my Brit guy, and he'll probably correct me on this. Great Britain became part of the EU, and the EU has literally become the same as the federal government of the United States. It's basically started to dictate the policy that all the nation states have to do it. So, you know, you've got that thing where Germany has a certain set of laws, and they should have sovereignty over, you know, Germany. The EU is basically come in and say, no. The German identity, the German nation, Germany as a whole, no longer exists. It's like they're trying to turn Germany from a nation, a country, into a state similar to like that of Texas.
Yeah.
Britain said, we don't want that. And that's mainly because the EU looked to the Middle East and said, let's bring in all these quote unquote refugees into the nation to solve our failing birth rates and issues. Refugees started causing problems. Great Britain said, no, we don't want any of this. We want out. But at the same time, they understood that, they still had needed access to the EU market in order to do this. And the other problem is with Ireland. Britain still occupies Northern Ireland. Britain wants out. Ireland still wants in. So here's the question. How do you handle the question of North Ireland? Is it still Ireland, which means it's still part of the EU and still subject to those regulations, especially with the incoming of refugees? Or is it part of the UK and, it can section itself off? That's the sticky bit. That's the sticky bit of Brexit that made it the whole question that it necessarily was. It's like, how does that get governed?
Yeah. I mean, and again, like the whole reason is 4 states, and like this is the stone Mexican guy who said we need to do the Futurama thing and just be Earth, no nations, just Earth. That's fucking dumb, right? The reason why is because your geography determines like what you need and who your people are, right? Each different geography inside of the world has their own needs, right? And need their own laws and their own ways of doing things and their abilities to, tariff or not tariff goods, or their abilities to, fucking import this and not import this, and have people come in and don't, have people come in because they want to maintain a certain level of, fucking income for their people and shit. These are all things that need to be determined at a geographic location, right? It's not something that should happen throughout the world. And the world cannot have the same laws everywhere, because everywhere requires different types of fucking laws and, you know what I mean, rights and restrictions, just due to how the individuals, you know what I mean, need to live inside of their geographies. It's that simple, right? Like the United States is a continent. It shouldn't even be a fucking country in the end of the day.
I think
right?
all the individual geographical locations should be countries in of themselves. Southwest should be its own territory. The Midwest, the Corn States, that should be its own country.
And this is what kicked off the U.S. Civil War. This is what kicked off the U.S. Civil War. Yes, was slavery a part of it? Indeed. But the big thing is that the North was... The Industrial Revolution was happening at the same time. The North was becoming heavily industrialized. Why? That's what the geography allowed for. The South was more rural. The reason why the South was so rich in the early days as opposed to the smaller northern states was because it had all that farmland, and food was the big thing. Now, you know, the years have gotten past. The nation has established itself. Everybody's doing fine on food. This is, you know, when the North starts coming in, industrialization is the new big thing. It's taking the world by storm. The North has the necessary minerals and resources to take care of that. They're riding this new wave. They're now rich and powerful. And they're looking at the South and they're like, well, we have all these machines that, you know, we don't need as many people to, you know, run stuff. And they looked at the South and they saw all the slaves down there and they were all like, you know what, you're mistreating your people down there. You know, we can't afford to have slavery anymore. We have all these machines. And yeah, it's like, you know, you should join us in what was it? The 18th, what was it? Like 1860s, what was that? 19th century, 18th. I can never keep the
1860s.
So it's basically, hey, no. It's
19th century.
It's like, yeah, it's like, hey, get out of that 18th, 17th century mentality where you need slaves and come join us in the 19th century. And because the South was so heavily invested in people, not machines, in people, that they looked at the North and were like, y'all fucking crazy. But that's because they were so heavily invested in that.
Well,
but then, you know, then the North decided to impose its will instead of allowing slavery to naturally die. Instead of showing off the machines and saying, here, all these machines, you could have machine farming. You could do away with the costs and of owning, maintaining, and keeping slaves. It's like, here's a tractor. You don't have to feed it. You don't have to water it. All you got to do is take it to a machinist every so often. And, you know, it can do the work of like 20 slaves pulling a plow.
So Harold, here's the thing, right? You know what I'm saying? Well, the North didn't, Ryan himself, no, the North did not own slaves, right? Like the North had outlawed slavery like in the early 1800s, right? And to be honest with you, most states actually outlawed slavery before they were fucking states. Like, yo, legit. You know what I mean? Like Pennsylvania was formed, you know what I'm saying? And it had some slaves in like Philadelphia, but like for the most part, like they absolutely never had slavery. Connecticut never had slavery. Fucking New Hampshire didn't have slavery. Rhode Island did have slavery, but that's because they had a heavy Jewish population. But you know, I mean, we'll get into that some other fucking time.
The Talmud, good times.
Yeah,
it's also worth noting that Kansas fought a mini civil war over slavery before the Civil War. So, like, calling it all at the Emancipation Proclamation is dumb.
Yeah. You know, like there's a lot of moving parts in the Civil War and like the whole argument over fucking slavery. It was really about the rich interest, you know, I mean, that didn't want to do away with and didn't want to make the initial investment in the machinery. The same as we're having right now, right? We're having the same conversation now that we had in the Civil War, right? We're saying, you know, you could onshore your operations and automate quite a bit of it and end up employing Americans in the process while you do so. And like, we could solve the need for having, you know what I'm saying, shit over in fucking China. And they're going, no, we don't want to make that fucking investment of $2 billion or, $50 billion of, put in a new fucking chip manufacturer here in the States, which can be done.
That's fucking cheap compared to the wealth of some of these people. They could do it themselves and privatize the area. And then we just go back to having everything hashed out with workers' unions again.
And this is why I put out the videos that I put out, right? It's because I want y'all to understand the reasons why we're having these conversations right now, right? The reasons why we're going through all this. I want you guys, I'm a political cartographer, all right? I'm drawing you a fucking map of how shit works. And I think that's fucking important for everybody to understand. That way, when you go, well, I want to invest or I want to, you know what I'm saying, like change jobs or whatever it is, you can go, well, this is the way that the world's moving. Let me fucking, become, let me get into transportation, or TK Mal, you want to get into like fucking, building a copper wire facility or whoever it is, what I'm saying? I want y'all to have that opportunity, to be able to do these type of things. I think that's fucking important. And I think that's a better way to go than to just stand here and clutch my pearls and act like, oh, why would they stand here and fucking, lock this guy up? Because I don't fuck him. All right. Like, that retard went down there and did some retarded shit. Okay. Like, he went and fucking challenged the king and didn't have a sword in his hand. He's fucking retarded. He deserved what he got.
Yeah, at that point, it was like these guys were not prepared to actually occupy Capitol Hill.
Yeah, they weren't ready to take that motherfucker over. They went and challenged the fucking king and weren't holding a weapon.
Yeah,
this is.
I mean, if they really wanted to do it, they should have done how Latin America did it. Like, armed themselves with. I'm not endorsing to actually go do this, but I'm just saying this is what they should have done if they really wanted to. They should have armed themselves with AR-15s. Be ready to murder motherfuckers. Okay, Latin America's geography is a completely different animal. So, of course, it's gonna get. Of course, violent revolts and dictatorship regimes is going to happen because of the geography, like you said, Tom. And it has to do with the culture. The Spanish people are just naturally more dictatorial.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Anyway, ad hoc. What were you saying, man?
And I have completely lost where I was going. But as far as that's concerned,
right? The moment he was like, moment he started Fed posted and shit. He's like, you bring an AR-15 down there.
No, I support that. It's like, people don't have the balls to go far enough anymore. And, this is where I'm coming in. You were talking, Pinoid, about how you're not going to clutch your pearls. And as much shit as I give trend chasers, it's like I would look down my nose on people who are chasing the trend. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm not envious of people who figured out how to capitalize on something. Yes, I'm a jealous individual. You figured out how to capitalize on something to make your money. Yeah, I'm going to be jealous. I don't have that ability. I don't have that talent. I'm
not jealous. I'm upset. Right. Like, I get upset when, how do I put this? I get pissed off when a motherfucker goes and sells out. Right. I get aggravated about that because I'm like, there's some things in life we do because, we like doing it. Right. It's like going fishing and throwing a car battery into the fucking water and just shocking the fish. Like, that's cheating.
Oh, that sounds like my perfect ideal of fishing, because I can't use a bait and rod for shit. I would much rather chuck dynamite in the lake and just blow the fish out of the water.
Hey, do not impugn the dignity of dynamite fishing. You have to at least time that bitch. A car battery, you just throw that in.
No. You should actually do what Homer Simpson do. Throw a bounty zapper in the water and then let all the fish die, and it's easy pickings.
Well, I mean, then you kind of got into the question of, okay, now I've got all these fish. If I don't eat them all, they're going to go bad. And then someone has the brilliant idea of creating a refrigerator. You buy that refrigerator. Hey, look, innovation makes the world go round.
Or you could smoke the fish. That's
Ooh,
Oh,
that's it.
smoke.
I forgot that. Smoked
Smoke.
stuff's good.
Yo,
Make
smoke
some
that
fish
shit.
jerky.
Ooh, fish.
Ooh.
I haven't had fish in a long time,
smoke
man.
them properly and just fucking eat it up, man. Oh my gosh, it's fucking amazing.
And
Which,
that'll
like,
fucking
yeah,
eat.
like I get upset, you know what I'm saying, because of the fact that like I watch dudes around me who, you know, I mean, I know, and I had on my channel when I had 300 or 400 subs, and like they now have like 200, 300,000 subs and shit, and I talk to them and I go, bro, yo, look, you do understand what you're doing is harming the country, right?
I
You know
have
what I
4
mean?
videos and no subs. And nobody
Right.
watches my shit. And I still do it anyway.
I have, you know what I'm saying? I got 3,000 subs. You know what I'm saying? I'm kind of proud of that. You know what I mean? Like I climbed out of the primordial ooze of where everybody else was, but I'm nowhere near at that level where I'm influential. You know what I mean? But I'm trying, I want these men to be educated and to put out the proper message. I think that's important. You know what I mean? To do real news work, to do like actual stories and not just go, hey, Nancy Pelosi today or AOC or fucking whatever dumb shit that they do. And I fucking like, dude, that just that. Yeah,
I was like,
I
yeah,
fucking hate that shit.
Yeah, I hate that shit. Every time when they say something stupid, it's like, I know this is a false flag. I know they're actually just using them as a mouthpiece to hide the fact that they're doing something else behind the scenes.
Welcome to the 24-hour news cycle. At this point, you're not putting out real stories anymore. You're trying to just fill time and bad news sells. So now you got to make up shit to grab people's attention. Because if you can't keep ratings, guess what happens to the show? You get pulled.
Like, I'm not that type of guy who can do that. I can't fucking do like I can't.
I don't have the patience to do that.
Like, yo, I'm not that type of person. I cannot be the motherfucker who can sit here and like be upset about AOC or fucking, you know, I mean, Ted Cruz or the Democrats running away from Texas because they don't want to vote. Well, you know, like last year we had the year before, one of the two, it was out there in Washington. They fucking ran off or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying?
Well, why are you running off? You got voted in there. Have some balls and actually stand for it. Go in, vote no. If you get overruled, you can at least look at your constituents and say, hey, I listened, I tried, I'm going to keep fighting. I am here to work for the ones that ran off in Texas. They pretty much turn their backs on their constituents and say, we ain't even going to
push back on that. Like,
yes, push back, please. Push back against me. I need you to
right. No, on like some of the specifics on the Washington case. Like, yeah, it was the same from a couple perspectives, but like the main thing there is that in Washington or Oregon, I forget which it was. I think Pinoid said
I think it might have been Oregon. Matt Dodge lived there. I think it was Oregon.
Right.
Totally positive.
What was happening was that their Congress was discussing a bill on just some blatantly unconstitutional gun control, and the Democrats had enough votes to pass the bill, but not enough votes to actually start the session without the Republicans. So the only way the Republicans were going to stop the bill is if just none of them showed up and they couldn't start the session. And so instead of running away to the Capitol, which is where it's really different, the Republicans just sat on their property and told the cops to send armed bachelors. Which is, let's be real here, that's an entirely different situation than tucking your tails between your legs and running off to the Capitol.
Well, like, let me say this though, right? I think that if you don't do your fucking job, you should get fired. Like the rest of us have, like this, like what happens to everybody else in this country, right? Like if you don't do your fucking job, you should get fired. I think that's a good premise, right?
I agree with you, but the thing is that if you are specifically a political officer, you got to understand that sometimes your job is not doing your job. Like it's like if you have a filibuster, right? Except it's the reverse, where you just don't show up at all. Like if you can break whatever system that is going to hurt your constituents by just not participating, then like that's a win-win. Like I am 100% for this debt ceiling never freaking being raised and just this entire machine grinding to a halt, because that's just better for me in general. I mean, it is causing some problems in the economy right now. I don't know if you've seen the knock-on effects there, but
the economy will be fine. Let me keep it all the way 100. All right, the economy will be fine. It's a fluid object. All right, like motherfuckers will move to where things are fucking productive, and move away from things that are unproductive. The government happens to be highly unproductive.
At that point, it's like if the government is unproductive, how the hell has the system been running in its absence? It's like everything's on autopilot now.
Because it doesn't need to do anything, and it can literally print money.
Well, here's the thing, right? And like I was listening to Mark Blythe last night. He's one of my favorite economists, mostly because I like the way he talks, right? And I mean, the nigga sounds like Shrek. So it's nothing like
Hamptons are not a defensible position. They'll be coming for you.
Yeah, the Hamptons are not a defensible position. Like I love that shit. I'm like, yo, yeah, you give me all your economic stuff. I want to hear all my economic news from you, right? But the problem is like guys like him who, they're leftist, but they're still capitalists. In the end of the day, they're not taking into account the demographic effects of what's going to happen here soon, right? They're not having that conversation inside of their heads about, hey, look, we're soon going to have this conversation about less, right? We're going to have to figure out a system that operates on less people, less capital, less demand, because it's going to fucking happen whether we like it or not, because the boomers are going to die, right? And their money's going to be passed down, and the people are going to buy things for a little bit, but it's not going to drive shit for that long. And you're going to end up having a problem of where you're just going to have less demand and less people and less shit like moving around the world. This is going to be a conversation that needs to happen. China by 2050 will have half as many people as it does today. Nobody's talking about this.
Yeah, China ran out of
They're
25-year-olds after 1980. China started passing the
Can you hear ad hoc when he talks, nigga? Because like you just be fucking running over that motherfucker.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Anyway, keep going, Hawk.
There is talk about it, but now China's starting to implement some more new draconian policies. First, it was the one-child law where everybody was murdering everybody except their firstborn male son. Now they're starting to implement a mandatory and start knocking up what females we have left.
Well, no, like, they're actually in like the western part of the country. They have party loyalists actually living inside of the houses of the Uyghur population, right? To make sure that the husband and wife don't fucking procreate.
No.
Oh, I know why. Because the Uyghurs are technically Muslim and they're not Han Chinese compared to the rest of the mainland.
Right. And that's a third of their population. And then on top of that, like, they have like, over the population, they have like a 3%, difference between males and females. Right. But the problem is in the cities, right? The difference is like fucking 20% female to male. Right. And they have this issue of where like they have, all the females were drug out of the countryside and put into the fucking, the city centers, and there's nowhere to raise kids and nobody can afford fucking houses and shit. Like shit is completely fucked over in China. Like they will stop being a fucking, they're no longer a consumer society, and they're at the level of where like now their fucking demographics are terminal. It doesn't matter whether or not they have kids anymore.
Right. And actually I found it really funny because there's some news that came out of China like the week after all the half the boomers went into retirement, and that's that you have to actually know the right jargon to look for, but basically money is flooding out of China. Like people are yanking their cash out of China faster than a lot of people.
And they're moving to a lot of places where the money's much more secure, particularly US, Canada, UK. Right. China will try to make up for its lost capital by trying to expand into East Africa, but it has to go through the island chain first.
Well,
And
that,
East Africa, Congo is rebelling against China.
right. But the way, which, by the way, if you ever want to know if money is going into or out of China, look at their reserve reserve rates. Basically, the lower they are, the more money's coming out of China, because the way China tries to control their domestic inflation is that if there's a lot of money coming into China, they make the banks have large reserve asset requirements, so they can't use all that money that's coming in. And if money's flowing out, they reduce those reserve requirements so they have more money to deal with. And theoretically, what's going to happen is the banks have a relatively constant supply of cash to go on with. But yeah, no, banks usually do not lend a whole lot of money when money is flooding out of an area, just as an in general thing.
Like, man, listen, all right, China's fucked. Like,
Yeah.
it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
And like, these are things that, like, you know, other YouTubers aren't going to tell you, right? Because everybody wants to go, China's going to be the new superpower, and they're going to, like, you know, they're going to take over the United States, and, you know, they're whatever, blah, 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 all this bullshit. The truth of the
China,
matter
at
is,
best case scenario, China is going to be a regional power, not a world power.
you know, the reasons why, like, Chinese investors are buying up farmland is just because they want to have assets that are going to appreciate in value and be stable. That's it. It has nothing to, like, they can't take that farmland to fuck home. Like, people don't understand this shit. It's just like Bill Gates. Bill Gates owns a bunch of farmland. Like, of course he does. You know what I mean? Like, yo, Bill Gates wants to fucking be able to have an asset that he can, you know what I mean, have appreciative value that's going to continue to, you know what I mean, give him returns.
Like when he's 90, 100, he can turn that land over to developers and it'll be worth like 40 billion more than it was when he bought it.
Like, yo, just how that operates.
Yeah.
Like, people don't understand, you know what I mean, like some basic shit, and they just breathe in the worst shit in the worst premises into things and the worst attributes of stuff and the reasons why people are doing things. And it's just not true. And this is why, like, you know, I have a fucking channel. This is why I started my channel and shit. You know what I mean? It's fucking important. Like, because, like, you have to fight back against these narratives of, you know, for instance, like, you know, fucking BlackRock recently got into, like, you know, buying homes and shit, right?
Yeah,
in the suburbs.
Yeah.
I've heard
Right.
this on the radio. Like when I'm driving my sweeper truck at night and I'm listening to the radio, I've got like 3 different real estate companies saying that we will buy your houses for cash. And all I'm hearing on the radio is, we will buy houses. We will buy houses. And it's like, okay. And it's like,
Okay.
3 weeks later, I'm listening to this commercial. I'm trying to think, okay, you're buying all these assets. Where is the commercial for you selling this stuff?
Well,
Well-
they're not selling them, they're renting them.
Right. Because what a lot of people don't realize is that, like, all this QE puts money into the system, yeah, but banks don't want money. They want assets. Because you put money on a deposit with a bank, that is a liability for them. They don't like that. That's why reverse purchase agreements are really high, because what that is instead of the Fed handing out money, the banks need actual assets to say that they have. So they're giving the Fed just these stacks of cash to take these assets off their balance sheets, which are mostly treasury bills. And, you know, the thing is that it's really, really weird, but it's not the amount of money that's the problem. It's the fact that all of this financial instability is making all of those assets worth less. So even if we have the same amount of money, we have a fucking problem. Because, like, just as an example, if a bank has me written down for a loan for, say, $20,000 in student loan, and now it's set up so that they got to take a haircut on that asset, well, that's a haircut on their balance sheet. And it's not just me. It's every one of those loans repackaged, and that thing's going to be, you know, re-rated. all of that reduces the amount of assets that the banks have on their balance sheet, which reduces the amount of money they can put into the system. Like, believe it or not, a lot of these shocks and a lot of the shit that's happening is deflationary. It's just not deflationary in, you know, your fucking stuff, because the government is also buying everything that you need on welfare. Basically, that's an interesting thing that I found, is that if you look at inflation and deflation, we actually did see deflationary periods even after the Fed was established. It's not until food stamps and welfare was implemented that we get constant, unending inflation.
Oh yeah. You know, I mean, like, yo, when you have constant adding of demand, you're gonna have constant adding of fucking inflation, especially with basic base goods like, you know, fucking milk and bread and eggs. And the stuff that really matters to people, the reason why it doesn't move is because a lot of it's fucking price fixed any goddamn way. like, yo, like, have you heard? I know, like, y'all have seen some shit on Discord or on Twitter or fucking wherever, right? Where, like, you have people running around talking about their planned food shortages and they're trying to starve people and all this fucking dumb shit, right? And it's not true. Like, none of this is true. They're just trying to keep the prices up for the farmers so the farmers will stay in business.
Basic. Pretty much really
yeah, that's actually what I noticed. Is I do, you know, I went out and I looked at the food prices, and I'm like, huh.
I mean, if anything, the real shortage is in
Naviston. You just did it again.
Sorry.
Oh my God.
That's also why they give food aid to every country on the planet, because if the food's not here, it's not driving prices down.
Yeah. All right, go ahead, Adok.
Actually, the whole thing was just getting me onto a rant on why, you know, the government is as bad as it is. When we first set up, and I'm talking like this goes back to like the 13 colonies and how the whole thing set up. Originally, the states were meant to govern themselves. The federal government, the job of the federal government, was strictly to mediate between the states. That's how it started. And then as, you know, the years roll onwards and everything else is rolling, you know, things happen. You know, we have the Civil War, we had the Great Depression, we had the World Wars, we had the Red Scare. And as these crises came, you know, people ceded more power to the federal government, you know, to help manage these crises. The expectation is that when these crises passed, those measures were supposed to expire, and eventually the federal government would just trickle back down to its one job. You know, you had one job, and that was to mediate between disagreements between the states. That didn't happen. These measures were not rolled back. So now the federal government has all this power that it shouldn't have by design, and yet it still has it anyway.
Well, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna say, like, your initial whatchamacallit was like kind of wrong. Like, the whole reason for, like, you know, the federal government as a whole was to fight the Revolutionary War, right? But like then, like, the reasons why, like, the federal government became the federal government after, like, the Federalist Papers, you know what I mean, it actually, you know what I mean, turned into like the, you know what I mean, United States type of constitutional, you know what I mean, republic that we have today, is because of the fact that, like, we had to stand here and pay for the whatchamacallit, the goddamn war fucking debts that we had after the Revolutionary War, and states weren't fucking paying them, right? So the federal government needed the ability to be able to stand here and dictate to the states on what timeline that the payments were going to be made, right? That's the reason for the power grab of the federal government in the beginning with, like, George Washington and shit, right? Right. You know what I mean? That's kind of the mentality, you know what I'm saying? That's, you know, that's where it is. Anyway, but like, yeah, fucking, all right. So, motherfucking Neffel nigga.
Yes.
Your turn.
I was about to say that the only shortages that are basically a shortage on on transistors and processing chips.
We're basically having a short supply on consumer electronics, not actual food.
Well, like actually, and here's the thing about the fucking chips. Like, you know, what I mean, like if you watch my fucking Zehan video, like he'll break this down better than I will because I don't know
I have.
really. Yeah, like I don't even really know like a whole lot about that shit. But the truth of the matter is like 3 different types of chips. One is consumer, one is like the actual shit that they put in the cars, and the other one's like the high end shit, which like they use in like, you know what I mean, like really good computers and high end electronics, right? And you know what I mean, we have a shortage of the mid level shit for cars is the problem right now. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's really where it is right now. We have a problem with the mid-level stuff, you know what I mean, which is what we need to address as a government. And the fucking government's not fucking doing so because like, yo, they go, we need to make these high-end chips here and right, you know what I mean? But like they need to fucking stand here and actually make the mid-level chips, which is the shit that we really actually need for our industrial purposes that we're not fucking doing. You know what I mean? I just want to put that the fuck out there. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
but that's hard to do. Like it is the mid-level stuff is actually the hardest stuff because it requires a mix of automation and semi-skilled labor. So like if you want to do that here in America, that's going to cost a lot of money.
Oh yeah, I remember looking at this one video that actually talked about the shortage of semiconductors, which is where the shortage is coming from. Like on initial investment, it's 5. I don't recall if it's billion or trillion. That's just the initial investment. That's getting the land, the factories.
50 to 60 billion.
Yeah. But that is.
And that's just the initial cost. Getting the factories, buying the land, getting the necessary permits because environmental regulations, getting all the workers together. You know, that's just the initial startup cost. Once you're rolling, the cost drops a little bit, but then you've got R&D costs that ramp that back up, so you can keep producing next generation stuff on top of your main.
Well, no. Here's the thing: is like we already do the design right now, right? The R&D and the design is already done out in Silicon Valley and in Austin. You know what I mean? And in I want to say fucking Nashville or fucking Knoxville, Tennessee, right? It's actually become a big place for fucking semiconductor fucking shit, right? But like, yeah, we already do the design. The design isn't the issue. The R&D isn't the issue. The issue is, you know what I'm saying, like the initial investment of building out facilities, right? And it's the same reason why like Apple doesn't want to do like, and I mean, the manufacturing and the assembly of their fucking products here in America is because of the amount of money it will cost and the fact that no matter what you do, you have to have human hands put the fucking shit together. And I think that what they need to do is put it in like Guatemala and Honduras.
This is why I do not fear automation as a whole. You will always need some kind of human element in there.
Sorry,
Okay, I just lost my train of thought. Continue. I need to find it. Let me go.
Like like it's I mean, it's the fact that they have to like put it together. They had to like sandwich the parts together and like actually like, there's parts of it that you can't do with the fucking machine. You know what I mean? And these are the parts that like legitimately you can do with the Southern Americans. You know what I mean? Much better than you could do in China. It'd be cheaper, and on top of that, like they have a workforce that is much more stable and closer to home. And like it'd be way easier to put it into the supply chain than it would be in fucking China. You know what I mean? Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Okay. So where also the shortage of semiconductors is also you got to think of. Like you said, the main one is coming in for the stuff that's in cars and whatnot. This is true. That also has to do with the whole COVID lockdown and everything. Lockdowns came into play. What were people not doing? Traveling. Well, okay, people don't need to travel. What's an expense they can cut out of their lives? Cars. So that means cars are not being sold. What are those cars doing then? They're just sitting on the dealership lots rotting. So the dealerships can effectively scale back, on how many cars they're purchasing to just kind of sit on their lots and then eventually sell. And so on and so forth down the chain. It gets to the point where you've got the semiconductors. Semiconductors take a very long time to make. From start to finish, the process is 14 months. Not days, not hours, not weeks, months. So when you scale back on the production of something like that, and then all of a sudden, the lockdowns lift and demand comes roaring back, you don't have that supply because you scaled back. So you scaled back. Now you got to suddenly scale. You can't scale forward when it takes that long to produce. And so that's why cars for the next couple of, I would say, years are going to be devoid of those features that require those semiconductors.
Well, as a whole, I think we need to start making shit here, right? Like in this hemisphere at minimum, right? I think that like the semiconductor warehouses and shit, and like I'll be real, this is all high end work. I think they need to put it out in like Boulder, Colorado, or something along these type of lines where, like those yuppies like to live, and pot smoking, fucking, flip flop wearing cocksuckers in their khaki shorts who like to go, mountain biking and whatever. We need to do that. You know what I mean? Like, anyway, yo, Naviston.
Yeah.
Neffel, my nigga, got anything left to say, man? Because I actually have to go to work.
Nope, not at the moment.
Okay, cool. All right. Anybody else have anything y'all want to address while we're the fuck here, man? Because like I gotta go to work. I gotta go make some fucking money for the night and handle my business. You know what I mean? Anybody?
I got work in an hour.
Yeah, I got work. Actually, I was supposed to be there about a half hour ago, but I told him I'd come in late today because I was like, fuck it. You know what I mean? Yo, TK, anything you want to address, nigga?
I just got off work. Fucking good luck to you two, and Godspeed to you viewers.
All right, thank you very much. Ad hoc, enjoy your night at work tonight. Navison, enjoy your night. You know what I'm saying? TK Mal, you know the deal. You know what I mean? Yeah, Tom works. Of course, Tom works. Tom works his dick off. Nigga, I got like 7 kids. You don't know? Do you think that $20,000 a year in child support gets paid by my good looks? I fucking wish. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. Anyway, yo, look, I'm the fuck up out of here. I'm gonna holla at y'all. Peace. End broadcast.